Welcome everyone to Straight from the Paws. Today I have our newest board member, Denise DeVillis-Lopes. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you.
And of course my co-host,
Hi.
Beverly. All right, so we've had approximately, how long have you been on the board with us?
Not quite a year.
Not quite. Okay, that's what I thought. I wasn't quite sure. But in that time, we have created a few little extra jobs for you, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we get everybody in, crank everybody in by saying, one meeting a month.
Yes.
That's all it has to be. And then we get you. So one of your new roles is you are one of my appointed clerks. How's that going for you at the shelter?
I love it. Absolutely love it. You meet a whole lot of different personalities. I'm learning so much, even with my medical background. I'm learning so much more about animal medicine and medications that I've never seen before. I do a lot of the medical data entry, but it's very satisfying.
Right, and so you're one of the people that, now you don't only come on one day, you actually come 2 days.
I do come 2 days.
And you come on one of our busiest days, which is Saturday.
Yes.
And you're comfortable with your, well, let's explain to people what you do as a clerk. What's that position?
We run the whole gamut at the desk. We greet people, we answer phones, we do application verification, which is the cover sheets. We check residency, ownership, we check with vets if someone is adopting an animal that already has an animal at home. We have to be sure that they're up to date on all their immunizations. Rabies is very important. We also assist with filing, almost everything.
That is true. Now, Bev.
Yes.
When we first came up with the idea, we did our policies and procedures, we said clerk. And that was supposed to be...
Remember that word
I
way
remember.
back when?
That was supposed to be a paid position,
That was
correct?
supposed to be a paid position, a full-time paid position.
And what happened?
Really?
That never happened.
It was supposed to be a full-time...
That never happened.
Yes.
It was supposed to be the assistant to the office manager.
Exactly.
So we kind of, when we created these positions, we created a hierarchy. The hierarchy would have been like the director, and then we would have had the office manager, then we would have had a clerk, and then we would have had the animal caregivers. So that never really came to fruition because we never quite had the money for that other position. We would prefer to save the money for the actual animal caregivers. So we could hire more workers with the animals than to have another secretary type person. So it ended up that we had asked a couple of board members a couple of years ago, could they come in and answer the phones? And that's how it all started. We just had a couple of board members answering phones, but that didn't work out too good either because they didn't have the answers. You know, when you answer the phone, you have to have an answer for the people that are calling. They could give, okay, we're open to 11 to 4, closed on Wednesdays, and they could give directions. But all the rest of the stuff they couldn't answer. So as we were changing managers throughout the years, the policies always changed. And then when Mr. Fredette came on board, everybody knows him. He's been on our show a number of times. When Mr. Fredette came on, Casey, we came up with the clerks. It was a little bit more than what we had originally asked for. I was always one of the persons that did the applications anyway. But then he said, why don't we have a couple of people during different days of the week that can do this, this, and this. And that's how it all started. So Miss President over here, Gail, started saying, well, I want people that I can trust because you're handling money, you're handling telephone conversations, you're handling driver's license. You know, it's a lot of personal stuff that we're handling.
It's not only confidential information, you're also going to know how to handle the public.
The public, correct.
And that was a big issue. And with Casey, and I appreciate what he's done. He's brought us forward as far as the number of animals that we have had come through the business now, and also the kind of animals that come through the business now. You really have to have someone that knows what they're doing. So believe it or not, most of them have all been hand selected because we needed people that were able to make all this happen, and it's not an easy task. I
We do
realize
have
that.
meetings.
We have
We
meetings
have
now.
clerk meetings now. All the
do.
clerks get together. I believe Casey has a staff meeting first from like 10
Right.
to 11, and then the clerks come in from 11 to 12, and we're all on the same page. So when we all answer the phone, we have the same answers. When we all do the paperwork, we have the same paperwork. So we're mirror images of everybody throughout the day, except for our little personality differences.
Well, this is true. This is true. And the other point that, Denise, you're probably not even aware of, and we can't give out the code, but we actually know, as you know, we have a code that if someone is giving you a hard time or someone in the staff is with a customer and all of a sudden gives out the code word on our walkie-talkies, that we have to call the police 911. So having said that, you realize this does happen, and it's unfortunate, but we have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect the animals that are in the building, obviously. So it's not as easy as it sounds, like, oh, we're just going to
Hire
I would have
somebody
liked
to answer the
right,
phones.
I would have liked to hire someone, but as one of our board of directors tells us all the time, Bev and Gail, we not only co-host the show, we sort of take on the role of executive director and divide the building and the staff. And so I got the staff, so I got Casey for that, and I was very fortunate. Bev didn't want the people; she just wanted, the other part, the business. So she starts on free and then moves up from there. So I don't like doing that. So I like what I'm doing, and she enjoys what she's doing. So we don't get paid. So why should a clerk get paid? And Bev was one of the clerks, and I said, she's not going to get paid to do this, and we couldn't afford it anyway. So now, that's why you have a clerk position.
Well, we can't afford it because we put so much money into our
We do.
animals.
We do.
I can't see paying a person to do the job that volunteers could do. It makes sense. And that way the money is being put back into the animal. So that's what we do most of the time.
I agree with you, but I disagree to a certain point. We have to have the consistency, and you
Continuity.
have to have the continuity, and I have to have intelligent, believe it or not, Denise,
Trustworthy.
intelligent, trustworthy, and very empathetic type people at times, but also very stern and necessary people, when
committed.
necessary, and committed. And you can't say, well, oh, I got a hairdresser's appointment, so I can't make it this Wednesday. You have to know that this is sort of a job that you're committed to, and you're willing to be there. I mean, I know for a fact that Bev, when she goes on vacations, she has to get someone, or anyone now has to get someone to substitute for us. So it's a commitment. It's not just saying, oh, I'm just going to show up and volunteer, and well, this week I'm going, well, I know you go to Texas. Well, I'm not going to be going in, I'm not going to be here this next couple of weeks. But ahead of time, you were honest and told us that ahead of time. So we know your schedule, and we work it out. And then you help cover someone else's time. So that's really appreciated and very well appreciated. So you do that, and then you also have another role. You became our volunteer coordinator.
Foster.
Excuse me, foster. All right, I made a mistake there. Joyce would be very upset with me. You are now, well, Joyce would be very happy with me if she watches the show. She'd say, yes, I'm out of this. No, Joyce does the volunteers. You are our foster coordinator.
Yes.
And what do you think about that program?
Well, it's fairly new to me. I've only been doing it for a couple of months. It's going well. What I have been doing is following through with some previous applications to find out if those people are still interested. There are some that are not. Some have moved. So we're in the process now of developing a whole new database of people who are interested in doing foster. We encourage anybody who is interested to call the shelter. I'd be happy to sit down with them, explain the whole process. It's a non-committal type of thing initially. If you're able to do it at a certain time, that's great. If you're not, then there is no problem with that. We establish what it is you can and cannot do, and what time frame you can do it in. We have several needs in our shelter, and where we will sit down with you and we'll discuss those and work out the specifics to your benefit.
Right, and just an FYI for our audience, they're not responsible for any supplies or anything
Nothing.
like that.
Financially.
Financially, there's no financial support.
No, we supply everything. We supply bedding, food, training services if that's necessary, medical. There is no financial responsibility at all. The only thing that we ask is that you provide a nurturing, loving environment for these animals.
Okay, so that's 2.
Okay.
Let's go for number 3.
All right.
As I know, you have become our liaison to the Chamber of Commerce in Fall River.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, Fall River Chamber of Commerce has been in existence for many years. It is now not the Fall River Chamber of Commerce, it's the Bristol County Chamber of Commerce. And they are an organization that promotes and defends and helps all types of businesses in the Bristol County area. They have these wonderful things that they call after hours, where you can go and meet with other business owners in the area, and that includes banks, nonprofit, small business, big business, any type of business. So it's a great networking organization where you just get to meet and be able to feed and grow and get exposure.
I also read recently in the newspaper that they're looking to combine, and I also got what the newsletters say, that they're looking to combine with, I think it's the same similar organization from New Bedford, so that we'd have a wider group of people involved in it and businesses. I don't know if that's going to come through, but they're looking into a program, and they're having a committee to investigate to see if it would be beneficial for everyone. So that sounds kind of exciting as well. So you're also going to do after hours.
After hours, and
Can I go? Can I go?
yes, there are actually a couple of our board members have expressed interest in going to those as well.
Well, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
And I appreciate you taking the time to do that, because, as I said, Bev and I volunteer for a lot of things, and sometimes you just can't do them all. And this we need to broaden out that we've got our outreach coordinator Diane, but she does a different aspect of the shelter. Now that we have, and I got to let people know, this Fall River PetSmart. They have cats there that are our animals, and they have sometimes other types of animals. Bev, they have guinea pigs and ferrets go there as well.
I believe hamsters go there and guinea pigs go there. And I think a couple of times we've had birds, but maybe not at the Fall River one, because we partner with all the PetSmarts.
Right.
So, I mean, our animals can travel to Leominster, to Rainham, Attleboro, so they do travel. So I don't know what stores take which animals, but they do take our animals.
That's another thing too. If anyone has time that loves to drive and would like to maybe transport some animals, you could also call the shelter and ask for our director, Casey Fredette, because we could look for a couple of people to transport animals to these various places, which is really important. But the audience here, at least we have, you know that if you go to the PetSmart, you're going to see some animals there, and they're going to be our animals. And they take the applications there, and they send them to the shelter. So that all works out for us as well. And, we keep growing and just keep expanding. But in doing that, we also we have a great van that was donated to us a few years ago by our friend the Emeralds, and that was awesome. But we need people different times to do it, because that van is used for transportation, for to go to the veterinary and all that. So, and we can only have certain people drive that van, because we know we have to keep our insurance numbers correct.
We have to put it. The drivers of the van are on the insurance.
Right.
So we have to keep that limited. If they're not listed on the insurance papers, then they can't drive the van.
Right. But if anyone has, a little bit extra gas in their tanks,
We
and they
do
want
like
to transport,
gas cards, gift
Yeah,
cards.
Matt, we do like gift cards, yeah.
gas gift cards.
we do like that, because we really need it. And also, I'm just going to put a real quick plug in, and thinking about that, but we do need litter. We need, is it non-clumping litter that we use?
I think we use both.
We use any kind, but we need litter.
Yeah, we use litter, but I know they collect the clay litter in one container, and then they put the clumping litter in another container, and then sometimes two of them are mixed.
Right.
So litter is such a big thing at the
It's a high
shelter.
commodity, and we definitely need litter. So if anybody out there would like to purchase anything for the shelter, right now litter is needed for sure. Okay, so I've contacted, I think I've said 3. I think we're going to number 4.
There's another one?
Yeah.
The membership drive.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Membership drive. That's sort of in the planning stage?
It's in the development stage. The membership drive, as everybody knows, the success of our shelter is based on donations. We accept donations of all kinds, and one other program that we'd like to implement within the near future is a membership drive, a membership program, where for $25 you would become a member of the Forever Paws family, and with that you get 10% off our annual fundraising event, the big one at Rachel's, which is the Thanks for Giving event, and you also get 10% off an adoption of any animal. In addition, you would get a membership card and a nifty plaque decal for either your car or your refrigerator, or which is going to say a proud member of Forever Paws Animal
That sounds
Shelter.
so nice. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's something that we had talked about years ago. Remember, Bev? We tried
yes.
to, they had one going when we were on Montauk Street, and they just, again, it kind of fell
It
through.
has to have.
You have to have someone.
It has to be an organized
Right.
program. It can't just be a fly-by-night thing. It has to be organized and followed up and documented. Everything has to be documented. Without the support of doing that, it falls apart. And we've seen that over the years, things that have fallen apart.
Right, so
Yes.
we're really excited. Actually, the committee sort of at this point is just the 3 of us sitting here, but Denise has decided she's going to sort of chair that on and move us in the right direction, so we're excited about that as well. And I know you think that's 4, right?
That
was
is
number
4.
Well, we're on to number 5.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh,
I know
boy.
you forgot one.
Get ready, Denise.
Denise, you're on the fundraising committee.
Yes.
Oh.
You're on the
Okay,
fundraising
yes.
committee, and so you've participated now. You used to come, and you used to be, come in and
Buy tickets.
buy tickets to our events and
Yes.
see what's going on. But now you are actually have, on the committee and see what's going on. And you've also gotten your husband involved in helping us out when he can, so that's wonderful. And I know one of the
For the bulwark.
Yes, he does the bulwark, but he helps out. We appreciate that. But we also know that you have also participated in a fashion show.
Yes. Yes. This is the event. Our first event was last year
Yeah.
at the Venus de Milo. That was a lot of fun. That is in partnership with Dress Express.
Yeah, Potty Dress Express, yeah.
And we are doing that again, March 2nd.
We are.
And it's a beautiful brunch, and
We changed it. We're having
dinner.
It's a buffet this time.
okay.
buffet dinner
Oh,
this time.
Okay.
Yep,
All
we're
right.
doing a
Because
buffet.
The hour had to
corrected.
change.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it's a great event. Lots of people volunteer. The clothing is beautiful. There are animals that come out on the what do they call that?
The
runway.
runway.
Yep.
And it's just a lot. It's a lot of fun. And I am a model. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, she did a very good job, and they welcomed her back again for this year, so that was exciting. And we do have some of our own models. Like again, something about the shelter is I mentioned about your husband helping out, but it becomes a family affair. Our director Casey, he brought some of the animals, from the shelter, but then his wife and his daughter were
Yes.
also models for the event.
Yes.
We, our office manager Teresa modeled for our event. My goddaughter Casey, so it becomes a family affair, and I don't think sometimes people realize that that's what's happening, but you sort of get yourself involved, and it sort of broadens out to your family and your family members. And
Absolutely, it's a matter of enthusiasm.
It is.
I sold a full table at the event, and everybody was so excited to go. Can we come next year? Absolutely, it's fun.
It's fun. It is fun. And you have also made, even before you became a member, you used to make a tree for our Festival of Trees.
Correct.
Yeah, so you see how now the process of what it takes. So when we say that, and I go back to, I say this, I haven't said it in a long time, so I'll say it to this audience today, is that we're a nickel and dime organization. We still collect cans, you know, no money is not enough. You know, you give us $1, you give us 20, you give us 1,000. We can use it. We can always use the money and the support. So Denise came on board. She hasn't even been on a year, and she's already been on 5 different committees, and we appreciate all that you're doing. So could you give me a highlight of something that's
Besides the fashion show?
besides the fashion show, because we know you really loved that.
We know you love that.
We know you love that one. But what some of the highlights that you've seen in the past almost year?
I would say the events, the participation and the energy that surrounds all of the events. The annual event, the Festival of Trees has just grown.
No, it has.
And is just such a beautiful, it's just such an exciting time. So I would think those 2 major things in particular. However, in the shelter, I've just seen how everything, all the workings, and how everything just seems to click, and the growth and the dedication of everybody at the shelter is pretty amazing.
I would agree with you on that. I think that, you know, sometimes we look, Bev and I talk about it all the time, you know, as we get older, we would like, you know, to see some of our younger generation kind of show up and help out more and get involved. So if there's anyone out there that watches this show, you know, when you're young and you got some great ideas, we're willing to change things around. We're willing to make things develop and transpire. Of course, we know that, you know, Casey's been going around and has been putting our name out, Forever Paws name out, in so many different states and so many different ways. It is phenomenal. And the fact that he's wildlife certified now also helps the shelter, because we get them, you know, the animals in. We also just hired someone recently that also works with wildlife, so that's another boost for us as well. But I never thought, you know, when we sit back and say we'd have all these different animals, you know, everybody thinks of it's just a dog and cat shelter and that's who we are. We're not. We really have grown, and that is really phenomenal. I think, you know, people look at the shelter. So go on our website, you know, follow through, come and take a visit at Forever Paws, or, you know, go on Facebook, Twitter. We're on everything, thanks to Casey. He loves social media. Bev and Gail, we get through it sometimes. It's a little difficult, but it's fun, you know. And I think that people have to realize that the shelter is just a stopping ground for the animals. We're going to get them adopted into a forever home. You know, some people say, oh, well, you're really not a no-kill shelter. And every opportunity that I get to say that is not true, that we are a no-kill shelter. We meet the standards of Massachusetts. We meet the United States standards. We far surpass those standards. And what I love about Casey, whether he realizes it or not, he's a numbers guy. So he's always throwing numbers at me. Did you know? And I'm not a numbers person. I'm not crazy about them. Bev loves them. I'm not too crazy about them. But when he gives me those statistics and I look at them, and then when we go in the board, one of the things that I love that he implemented, we had tried years ago, and it happened for a while, and then it didn't happen. He's got that board up front that tells you, this month we've adopted all these animals, the names of the animals. And you know, one month was like 112, another one. And so you look and you say, well, how many this time? And I see when the staff walks over and they put another name up, it's like another notch up there. And they're so proud of it, and they're happy about it.
And even the general public, when they walk in and they see that board, and they're in amazement when they see the numbers.
They are. And it is amazing to see the number of animals that are there. And that's so proud. You know, that's just a great moment when people get to look at that. But again, and I think that people have to understand with adoptions, and you get this as a clerk, both of you actually a clerk, is that some people get upset when you have to call them and say, I'm sorry, someone else got the adoption.
That's right.
People have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
They
But
don't
we
want to
have
hear
to
it.
take multiple applications.
We do.
The fact that you fill out an application doesn't guarantee you a pet. It's not like a store where you can buy one. We find that landlords say no. We find that they don't own their own properties, that they put on the application that they did, but they really don't. And then you find the real owner, they said, no, I don't want any animals on my property. Or their vet says, please, no, don't give them another animal. I mean, that's why we have to take multiple applications. So when you do take multiple applications, you may have 3 great applications, and one of them is only going to get the animal. The other 2, even though they're great, they didn't get the animal. And that does happen, but we have to take multiple applications. There's no way around it.
Now, I have a question for either one of you. So when that happens and you call them up and say, well, I'm sorry, but you didn't get it, and they're a good applicant, do you tell them that possibly they can keep their application on file, or what happens?
We usually do tell them that, especially if their application has been approved for everything else, like they own their own home, for instance, they have no other pets. Yeah, we'll keep their application, and they can come in and look for another animal.
And many times Casey will indicate, have them choose another animal.
Okay,
So we'll put that down.
so that's something right there. So
Yes.
if they didn't get the first black and white cat they wanted, but we've got 5 or 6 else sitting
Correct.
there, you can say to them, why don't you come down
And take another black
take
and white
another
cat.
Correct.
black and white cat, take a look.
Yes.
So that is an option that's
Yes.
given people. Well, that's good to know. I wasn't quite sure about that myself, and that's good. All right. I want to know, Denise, has there ever been a situation when you were as a clerk there that it was just too overwhelming for you?
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday? Okay, every Saturday's a little difficult.
The roles at that, just because of where the desk is and all of the different tasks that have to be addressed, the phones are going off. Not only our phone, but Animal Control's phone is usually going off. And if the staff is very busy, you have to answer that phone as well. We have people coming in with pre-filled applications that they got offline.
Right.
And they'll drop them off, and you have to make sure you get their license, make sure that the application is filled out correctly. So there's a monitoring system for that. If it's very busy, yes, it does get overwhelming. But people in general are usually pretty patient. If you say, can you just hold on 1 minute, I'll be with you in a minute. And you can call staff for backup, and the staff is very accommodating. But I love Saturdays. Saturdays are fun.
Keeps you busy. You're not
It
sitting
does.
around. And the other thing too is that you've got the sign-in now, so that when someone
Yes.
comes in, so you know who's. It's sort of not a first-come, first-served basis, but if it's a quick question that can be answered, and you know what's going on, so that helps. Some people,
Yes.
I know, some people get a little bit antsy when they. What do you mean? I got to sign in? You know, and some people say, well, I'm just going to put any name, and I take a look at it because Casey and I are trying to figure out what days are busier and what we need, you know, for staffing and so. So there's always a reason and a rationale for things, and we need to know who's there and what's going on, and we
What
need
the
to
volume
know
is.
right and who's in the building.
Yep.
You know,
Yes.
because some people just walk in and they think they just go to the left instead of going to the desk, and that becomes an issue.
Yes.
Because you don't know what's going on. We have a lot of cameras in the building, and that's one of the reasons. Because we have had one kitten before Casey got there that was taken out of a room and just stolen, kidnapped away, catnapped away.
Yes.
So it was kind of difficult. So that's one of the reasons we do that. Well, I want to tell you, ladies, I really appreciate you coming here today, both of you. And Denise,
you.
thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and
you.
that we hope you will continue to do.
It's my pleasure.
It's our pleasure working with you. It's become a great asset to the shelter. Thank you.
you.
And Bev, always thank you very much.
Thank you.